Hello? Okay. Basically, this is one of those serious videos where I'm just not going to edit and I'll be speaking purely from my heart. And yeah, there's just gonna be no edit, no cuts, no nothing. Because this is a serious video. It all starts with lead owners' allegations. I'll have Silent or whoever uploads this video link the video in the description. If you really want to see the videos yourself, it's about 4 minutes long. But basically, lead owners has been dealing with a bunch of questionable allegations. You know, the William type of allegations, the unpredictable FPS type of allegations, and he's been dealing with them for I think, way more than a year now. It's crossed a year for sure, and essentially, you never saw me, of all people, speak about it. It's always been like alt account looking people like Tomb Raider and Imperial. But I've just decided to speak out now because despite my efforts to try to keep lead owners away from these allegations, the only thing he's done as a thank you is blackmail me, and I'll get to that towards the end of the video. For now, I'm gonna jump right into the topic of him actually being um, a bad human being and how everything and how his debunks are essentially just an excuse to get him out of the hot water. Let's begin with how he's admit to having fun in bed uh, with not with a 14-year-old, while looking at a video of a 14-year-old is the better way to say it. And yeah, I'll just explain everything. I'll explain how he just bullshit, and how every allegation thrown at him has actually been valid. So, first things first, let's talk about his main excuse, which is OCD. I did a little bit of digging, and I asked ChatGPT myself, if I did the funny in bed to a 14-year-old and then tried to debunk it, um, does the debunking using OCD, of course, does that make the excuse valid, or it's just pure excuse to get out of hot water? So, like usual, ChatGPT explains like what is OCD and how it could like, and its effects really. It tells you like what the person, the OCD, like what they will go through and how their actions are, and how they act pretty much, and how they don't, and how they like do not act, and how OCD does like involves like these actions and not these actions. So first things first, how he talked to this person called Rin about how he's like about how are they like an open-minded person, and how like they'll tell him, they'll tell them, I don't know if it's a he or her or whatever, so I'll call them as them, and how like lead owners approach them and like ask them if they're an open-minded person. They won't tell anyone if he reveals his secret to them and stuff like that. One thing about OCD that I've noticed is that like someone with real OCD should not like admit about having admit like doing some bullshit like that casually, just like going into somebody's DMs and just telling them that you did that. Because here's the thing, with in Lead Owners' case, nothing was forced. He just randomly decided to admit it to them, which in this case is just casual, because nothing was forced and nothing was like we never tried. Nobody tried to extort information out of him. Pretty much, he just did it randomly, and for this part, you can see what it means. There's always been arguments about why that one specific screenshot of him doing the thing in bed to a 14-year-old is like, you wouldn't know if it was like sexualized intentionally or he was just like a weirdo, because like he said, he did it and then figured out she was 14. However, if you skip just a few seconds deep into the video, he talks about how he kept doing what he was doing after he found her age and how she was 14. So basically, he knew what he was doing, and this kind of it kind of validates this part of the OCD, like how you would not act with OCD and stuff like that. This matches this. So basically, 2 and 4 is what Lead Owners has done in those screenshots and stuff like that. And obviously, somebody with OCD should not be doing these stuff. Is it an excuse or valid? Now, Lead Owners has always like tried to pretend like he's always tried to like not pretend. Well, he's always tried to use OCD as a way to defend himself. Now, here's the thing: the OCD bullshit started happening. Like he started using OCD as a thing after the consequences he was facing, after the videos started resurfacing and spreading out. Because here's the thing: I've known Lead for quite some time. I've been in a lot of his live streams. I was involved within his online life a lot and stuff like that. There has been no like history of him ever showing like symptoms of OCD. He has never like done anything that shows he's had OCD. He's never complained. He's never done anything. He was just a normal human right before these allegations started. Now, it's very weird how his OCD shit happened only after the consequences, and how he brought up how he had OCD in the past right before the allegations, only after the allegations resurfaced as well. So there was no symptoms of OCD, there was no history of him having it, there was no clues, there was no behavior. It only happened after facing consequences, which leads me to believe it's more of an excuse as well. And his stories have also always like contradicted themselves every single time. He says something, then he says another thing. Like here, for example, he says he's admit to it. He says he's done it, and everything like that. Now, one thing. If I scroll all the way down here, the Tomb Raider guy and the Lead Owners, motherfucker, like they had a whole argument, because obviously you have to argue against somebody when you're like Lead Owner in Lead Owners' position. You're obviously going to deal with a lot of arguments. Now, here's the thing: if you can read and you're not blind as hell and you're not illiterate, it says here it was a lie or a misunderstanding, which doesn't make any sense at all, because he's very certain of it being a lie or misunderstanding. First things first, let's talk about misunderstanding. How could stuff like that be a misunderstanding? It's either you did it or you didn't do it. There's no way you can claim it was a misunderstanding. It just doesn't make any sense. And let's talk about the lie. He claims that if I said I did it, it was a complete lie. Now, for OCD, like the behaviors of OCD, right? You want, like, people with OCD will think it's a lie. They won't know if it's a lie, or they won't know if it's the truth. So people with OCD is like, how do I say this? With people with OCD are always like, I think I did this, but I also don't think I did this. I might have done it. Maybe it was real, but I don't think it was. So essentially, it's like you wanna be. It's not essentially wanna be. It's not forced, but people with OCD are always guessing and stuff like that. And with the language of Lead Owners, how he's always tried to debunk, his stuff has always been very specific, very sequential. he knew what he was saying. Everything was completely like clear in a way. So he's like defending himself in a very clear way, which does not fall into the category of the effects of what OCD actually is, which like leads everyone to believe that he's actually still using it as an excuse. Because here's the thing, right? We go back to this screenshot. It can only be valid if the person has documented OCD symptoms. Here's the thing: Lead Owners has showed me his documentations about OCD, but one thing that you can't really trust is its legitness, just because he showed you one screenshot of it. Because when you go to like doctors or psychiatrists in this situation, they give you the forms and they give you the results based on everything you tell them, not essentially what they know. They're basically gonna know based on what you tell them, which is something that you really can't trust. It's the only thing it really does is give Lead another defense, but it doesn't clear his name at all. And yeah, about the evidence, there's never been any evidence, obviously, because who's actually gonna record themselves doing that shit? And yeah, that's some like it's just fucked up. I wouldn't really know. So essentially, the takeaway of this is that he's tried to claim his OCD was the cause behind this, and how it's a lie or quote unquote misunderstanding as well. Basically, while doing that, he's very sure of it. He's like trying in a way to add OCD into his arguments, when his arguments are just completely like, yeah, I didn't do it at all. When in reality, it should be, did I do this or did I not do this? I think I did it. And most of the time, when Lead Owners gets asked about these allegations, and when people ask to debunk it, so like I said, I've known Lead for a year. Well, not known him for a year. I've known him for multiple years, but he's been talking to me about these situations for a year, pretty much. And all he does is try to sympathy bait. And in this case, I'm not gonna watch the video because I couldn't give a shit about that video. If you scroll a little bit down here, this is one part of his sympathy baiting, which is basically like him saying he's traumatized, his brain is like has maximum capacity, and like he can't take it anymore, and he's stuck in a loop and stuff like that. From time to time, whenever he does bring up his bullshit allegations, I've always asked him about like ways he could debunk it and how he's gonna debunk it and that sort of stuff. And all he's really done is just sympathy bait. Like, there was no proof of him debunking. All he did was just talk a lot, and most of it was just him trying to make me feel bad for him rather than him actually disproving the evidence that was being thrown against him. And I know Lead Owners is gonna watch the video because he's a sad little cunt who's never gonna get off the internet despite all the proof that there is. ChatGPT messages are not faked, and they're a good source. The problem is that he's manipulative. So what he does is pretend like ChatGPT is a unreliable source, but in reality, the only reason people get different answers from ChatGPT is because they word their questions differently. So like when Tomb Raider asks a question, he's asking questions based on his own wording, and the same thing goes for Lead Owners. And it's a bit like I said, contradictive that despite him claiming ChatGPT is unreliable, he still uses ChatGPT as his source of information, and has been doing so for the past year and a half. Over here, OCD does not make someone unable to distinguish right from wrong. So what this means is that even if a person does have OCD, they will still be able to tell the difference between what's like the right thing and the wrong thing. In Leet Orange's case, he just never knows the right and he never knows like the right from the wrong. So he's using this as a way as like his OCD behavior whatever it is, sort of a thing. Symptoms, yeah, that's the word. I just brain freeze there, my bad. But yeah, he's using this as his behavior shit, when in reality it does not. A person with OCD does not randomly just become like retarded and not know the difference between like what's right and what's wrong. Now, here is like, he sent me proof of his medication. I know you guys are not going to be able to read this. I did search it up, however. It's called sertralin, and what it does is that it should lower your anxiety and like lower your intrusive thoughts, and it comes with like other bad side effects like nausea, headaches. And I know Leet's been taking these because he's always nauseous, getting headaches and stuff like that. One issue that I've always had with his next message, though, is how he used to take 3 times more milligrams than the present times. This message was sent on October the 29th. So in the past, he's taken 150 milligrams. And like in the present times, pretty much, he's like lowered it to only 50. And one thing I've never really understood is how his behavior is just getting a little bit, it's just essentially staying the same. He's always spreading the same bullshit. He's always debunking in the worst, well, quote unquote debunking in the worst ways possible by just guilt tripping you and making you like feel bad for him. This is, if you really want, this is like the range for OCD and that kind of bullshit. But what I'm trying to say here is that despite him like saying he's taking less and he's getting off of it slowly, and essentially there is like, he's like trying to say that slowly but surely he's not gonna need them anymore because of the because he's slowly getting relieved and that sort of stuff. One thing that's his point with this sentence, right? One thing that doesn't add up is how the fuck do you lower your milligram usage or like whatever it is by 3 times, saying you're gonna get off of it slowly, like yet you're using the same bullshit you've always used, and like it's just dumb. I don't really know how to I don't know how to really like get to the end of this, but I'm pretty sure you guys are trying. You guys understand what I'm trying to say, because you can't really say you're getting off of it and then you're just acting the same way, sometimes even worse, and then claiming you have like massive OCD symptoms where you have peak fucking anxiety and intrusive thoughts where it reaches like a bad peak to where you can't control it and that sort of stuff. It just doesn't add up if that's what I'm trying to say. It just doesn't add up. Now here's the thing. Yesterday, or 2 days ago in this case, because this video is being recorded early in the morning, the Imperial accounts, if you've paid attention or even gave a shit about this cunt, you'll know that these accounts have always been on him because of the stuff he's done. Why did you jerk off to a 14-year-old and then claim he was OCD? No, at this point there was no guilt tripping, there was no actual evidence. All he did was say because it was funny. Like, how stupid do you have to be to try to say this when you already know the trouble you're in? How can you say that, oh yeah, it's funny, aha, aha, aha? And here's the thing. And here's the thing. When I talked to him about it in this content creator group chat. Let me just. Oh my fucking god! He actually deleted the group chat. But basically, a Glastic was there, and he's replied to it. So if Glastic ever watches this video, he could vouch that I did warn him about the fucking stuff. Like I did warn him about like how this was retarded and how he's digging his own grave and how he's affecting my reputation. Because here's the thing, you might be wondering, why would this ever affect your reputation? He's always tried to involve me into his bullshit and take his side and that sort of stuff, which is like I've done it because I've felt bad for him. Like he was being attacked, he was contemplating unaliving himself, and he was like a long-term friend of mine who like I didn't want to defend him, but I also wanted to keep him out of these allegations. Essentially, he just blew it by thinking he could blackmail me. So yeah. And if he wants to claim inspect, I showed you the screenshot already. Is that he already admit to it? He said he will debunk it. He says it was clear sarcasm, but like, where's the fucking? There's nothing funny about this. It's just pure mental retardation at that point. You have no debunk for yourself. You have nothing. So what you just say it was funny. Man. Yeah, and I've always claimed that. Like I said, I've talked to lead owners about, or he's always vented to me because that's all he does with his life. Fucking ask people for help because he can't debunk it himself. What I've always noticed is that there's no proof of it, ever. Like I said, guilt tripping, and like I said here, well I did say it, but here's the proof of it if I can find it here. So he got banned from Please Donate and that sort of shit. We talked a little bit, and then he basically said it himself. How do I disprove something I said? He obviously cannot disprove anything that's been said because it's far too late now. You've had bad usage of OCD in your debunks, and there is really nothing you can there's nothing you can do. You've said you went to a 14-year-old, and after finding out about her age, you kept doing it. And here's the thing. Let me show you another thing. Let me show you. So here's the thing. With OCD stuff, you always want to feel like people get the feel of guilt, not a shame. A shame is just a bad excuse. Essentially, it's just a bad excuse because people with OCD are just guilty of stuff. They are like, if I did this, why did I do this? Why am I like this? But in terms of lead owners, casually approaches the person, and I've already shown you that it's a retarded thing to do because it's not a form of OCD behavior and that sort of stuff. And another thing is that people always miss this key detail. Being ashamed is just a bad excuse because forms of OCD is being guilty. That's literally the point of it. But no, he's ashamed, and he's said he's ashamed in multiple times. Which like he could have slipped up, but if it was one time. But he said he was ashamed of doing it and stuff like that. See, he's ashamed. So it wasn't a slip. He actually used that word, but it's just a lame excuse pretty much because he's not guilty. He's just ashamed, which is another form that he's just making up excuses at that point because, like I said, with OCD, it's just guilt and not shame. It's just a bad excuse. Now, he's obviously tried. Like these accounts have gotten him banned from a lot of servers. He tried to debunk these. He tried to debunk these claims on his own as well. And like this is the Souls RNG Discord. This is a Souls RNG moderator. Basically, despite seeing both sides, his appeals are just essentially excuses. I'll just like a TDLR. It's just there is like no credibility. It's essentially excuses. They say like you did this stuff and you can't really say this was intrusive thoughts or false memories because it just doesn't make any sense. This is stuff that you said and you were open about it too, and then you try to claim it was a lie, like a lie or a misunderstanding without any showing any symptoms of OCD. So essentially, even moderators of big servers like this one, Souls RNG, know that he's also lying about his like debunks essentially. And here's the thing, I know he's gonna release a documentary soon. I've had a sneak peek in his documentary. I'll save you the time. It's essentially like 100 pages, God knows why, and all there is in those documentaries are screenshots, like screenshots of allegations, and all there is just walls and walls and walls and walls and walls of text, basically explaining, quote unquote, explaining the screenshots in his perspective. And essentially, you're just reading a book at that point. He's not debunking anything. He's just talking, which is another, like, he's just, what do you call it? Sympathy baiting. Like I've been saying. He is essentially just going to try to manipulate you into thinking he's not a bad human being. An FPS for that case, if you know what I'm talking about. And I tried to take him out of the public image just so that he wouldn't have to deal with it, but he's a retard and never really wanted to click off, so here I am now. Yeah. Oh man, it's just sad. And this is just talking about one situation, and the fact that this situation has extended to 27 minutes of me explaining from just one admission of him saying that he's done that thing to a 14-year-old. This is just excluding the fact that he's sent how do I say this without risking the account of violating policies? Okay, so it's like half-dressed anime pictures, barely covering the important parts of a female. Distributed it to a 15-year-old. Yeah, I really don't know what to say. That's just essentially morally fucked. And here's the thing. They had their arguments in here. They've had their arguments, like Leet and fucking Tomb Raider. They had their arguments. Unfortunately, because of his message deleting, I cannot like prove that he actually did admit to sending those pictures, and then claiming he was stupid for not checking the age of that person before he did send that sort of stuff. And before you claim, it's not NSFW, it doesn't matter if it's not NSFW, because the whole point of those accounts were sexual thoughts and essentially just playing around with your privates and stuff like that. Those accounts are only meant for the dirty-minded shit. And it's just because it is an NSFW doesn't help your case in this situation at all. You still send pictures and an account like dedicated to those pictures as well, knowing the thought behind it, knowing it's essentially just a dirty-minded thing. So yeah. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, he tried. Okay, before I get onto the blackmailing bullshit, here's me trying to fetch more evidence from our old DMs. Luckily, this was timed perfectly. He was deleting his messages to prevent me from going into the deeper days and finding more evidence to use against him. Basically, in this scenario, you're like, okay, but lead owners usually delete his messages. What's new about this? Because this drama has extended for like a year pretty much, he basically came to the conclusion that I would go deep into the DMs to find evidence, because he told me a lot of shit. So what he did was search his old messages and deleted his old messages before the newer ones. And if you know lead owners, he always deletes the newer ones before the old ones if he has nothing to hide. So in this case, he actually had stuff that he was hiding, and unfortunately he was just deleting them from all to top. So I only got what I got, and I'm essentially putting it in this video as a whole. And I can't really get more unless I do some advanced stuff. Anyways, I don't think I need to, because this is plenty of evidence about him being a disgusting human being. And if you're defending him at that point, you're probably like him anyways, or you're just mentally brain dead. That's literally it. There is no I've pretty much disproven why his OCD bullshit is just essentially an excuse and not valid. I've talked about the screenshots, and I've talked about the screenshots, the lolly, the distributing to 15-year-old, this one, the I think the Rin, whatever her channel is, Vili something. I'll link the video, like I said, in case you wanna watch the whole thing, or I'll get whoever gets it to link it. I'm not speaking good English at all at the moment. I told Tomb Raider to make a video about this, but I thought I'd make a video about it as well, because obviously my voice matters way more, because I'm not considered like an alt account, and I'm one of I'm very known in the comp scene, and people know that I've had connections with lead owners for a while. So I'm not lying when I'm picking a side and saying he's a disgusting human. You know that I'm not lying here. And his only excuse, I tried to get as much evidence as possible before he deleted it from the most recent messages. Basically, he claimed that I did all of this because we were working. Okay, here's the blackmailing stuff and how it all began. Me, Colbum, Guess, and lead owners, we're gonna make a game together. I DM'd him about an idea, how we could profit in a risky way, which is like USD buying and selling, or USD selling and then buying and then doing that process, because of DevX being essentially a low amount compared to other rates that you can find. So we had a disagreement, which is normal. People disagree. However, the disagreement escalated to the point where he had blackmailed me by saying that he was gonna kick me out if I stick with this idea. So essentially, he was giving me two options: either I stick with his idea forcefully, or he's gonna completely remove me from the project and everything. And that's essentially blackmailing. He's trying to force me to pick his side, or he's gonna do something bad. So his claim is that he left and I got mad that he left. No, I got mad that he blackmailed me. Like I said, he's always tried to guilt trip. Look, he's always tried to guilt trip, and like I said, he's manipulative. So he's gonna say what he wants to say to make you believe him, when in reality, all he does is talk, but there's no evidence. And all of his evidence, in this case, is just essentially not clear enough. it like in these screenshots, it's just him trying to stop me from dragging out this situation and stuff like that. I didn't really get like the proof of him saying that because he obviously deletes his messages like a little pussy, but here he says my intention wasn't to blackmail you. So he's reflected on the message he said, and basically like in this message he's basically trying to say that he messed up and he didn't want to intentionally blackmail me, but he did, saying he wants to try to help me. See, this is another part of his manipulative pieces of shit excuses. Because, like I said, if he didn't delete his messages, this would be a lot easier to use in the video. But what he did essentially was, in the argument, what he was doing was arguing about his own assets. So he was worried about his income, he was worried about his account, and when we offered a solution, all he did was still complain about how only his account, by the way, our accounts didn't matter. Me and Code One Guest, we didn't matter at that point. He was arguing about how we are putting his accounts in danger and stuff like that, and his income and everything. Essentially, I say we worked on the game. He did nothing. Me and Code are the only people who've done jack shit for the game. What he did was just make the group chat, and that's it. All he's done is just essentially ride off of what we've done and act like he knows everything about like what we've done, and essentially try to. All he's done ever was argue with us about our ideas, because I don't know what was wrong with him. Every idea we've ever had, he's just arguing and arguing and arguing and arguing. Yeah. Here's like I said, here's him admitting to being a retard here. I think I already said it in the video, but in case I didn't, that's the proof. Oh yeah, and let's talk about about his like mental retardation and narcissism. This guy right here, he's a developer. Basically, lead owners got into we got into a predicament where Code One Guest needed help with development. So lead owners decided to quote unquote hire developers to help our game out so that we can release it sooner or later. What I told lead owners that it shouldn't be a priority, because obviously you need to pay people for their efforts. I told them, if you really want to keep a high income, you should just not hire not hire like this guy and the other person, like this guy. He should not hire them so that our profits are still with us and we can make better profits. What he essentially did was interview these guys. Like even though I disagreed with it because of what I've just said about like the profits and stuff, he still made a whole entire group chat, quote unquote, interviewing these people. Now, what I find retarded about it is the fact that he wasn't planning to pay these guys at all. He wanted to hire them just to work on the game and essentially kick them out. No pay, no nothing. Just to keep his share while getting more people to work for him for free, pretty much. And I told lead owners that this was a terrible idea and that they are gonna request payment sooner or later, and how we should just stick with our team. And he was like, "Nah, dude, it's fine because it's fine because they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna ask for payments." After the blackmailing shit happened and he got kicked out of the team, or in his words, he left the team. He tried to take the two developers he interviewed, and I talked to this guy specifically. What he said is that lead owners essentially wanted to use him as a way to develop a new game, but lead owners kept all the profits 100%. I'm not even joking when I say this. Lead owners tried to like pretty much enslave these people to work for him just to not even get paid, which is royally fucked. So despite him being a groomer, despite him, well, not a groomer essentially, he's just a disgusting uh, PP. You know the word P that I'm referring to. Yeah. Being morally fucked, sending bullshit to 15-year-olds that shouldn't be sent, regardless of if it was NSFW or not, because it was sexual. That's the intention. Or just the fucking guilt tripping or whatever it is. He's a selfish little cunt who tries to just essentially use people for his own benefits. And he tried, like, when me, Code, and Lead owners essentially formed into a team when it all began, Lead owners tried to also keep his profits to himself, like 100 for himself, 0 for me, 0 for Code. And when we talked to him about it, like, how is this fair? How could this ever work? He said Code can have 20% or 30 maximum, while I get 5%. So essentially, he was just trying to use our time and effort just to profit from this as well, despite doing 0 work and 0 nothing. Oh, his excuses were just, yeah, I made this team, so yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Huh? You can't kick me. Essentially, that was the excuse. Me and Code One Guest had to literally argue with him about percentages so that it becomes even. Which should tell you how fucking, it should tell you how fucking, mentally disabled he is to actually try to pull this off. This, he already had those allegations being thrown at him, instead of trying to help his case, he just guilt trips you. Instead of trying to become a better person, get off the internet, get a nice life. No. He just tries to fucking essentially use everybody for his own benefits like a narcissistic little cunt. And yeah, essentially this is just stuff that is hard to... It was hard to ignore. It reached a limit to where I couldn't keep this silent anymore. And yeah, now here I am exposing him, essentially. And I am very, very, very sure that Lead will just have walls and walls and walls and walls and walls of text to try to keep his reputation alive. And don't worry, bro. Don't worry. I've talked to multiple people. I've talked to multiple content creators, multiple people. Essentially, he's fucked up. He's fucked. Nothing he can do to save his reputation now. And yeah, he regarding the messages of the 14-year-old, here's him deleting it, but here's the proof of people replying to it as well, just in case. I don't know. Just in case you wanted to see more proof. I don't know why you'd want that. See, here, express shame, express shame, not confusion, which is basically in this, over here it's just guilty and confused and sort of stuff. And in this case, he's shameful. He's confidently speaking. He's in a side where he's confident he didn't do it. And then the false memory should happen after the consequences, which I already told you. Because there was no symptoms or hints of OCD before all this shit happened. I can't believe I've actually had to make a video about this shit. I know there was background noise. I don't care. I'm not gonna edit a whole ass video exposing him because of some background. You can hear the background. I don't really give a fuck. I'm not sorry about. You know what? I am sorry for keeping this information private from every single human being. I'm sorry that I didn't reveal this sooner. Yeah. You can try to do what you want with all this information. If you have questions, my Discord is just julybacon. You can join my Arsenal server and ask me questions. Wow. Just wow. Yeah. There's nothing really to do other than to try to run him out of the internet if he doesn't go out of it already. Yeah, goodbye.